Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and continuing our anniversary review series, we are going to be celebrating 20 years of Advance and Vanquish by 3 Inches of Blood. So, I'm going to say this, finally, we are covering this album and just this band on the channel. They recently got back together and they themselves are celebrating 20 years of this album. And it's crazy because for so long, like, this is basically my first foray into this band. Vile Silva is way more experienced with this band than I am. This is basically my first time really digging into them. And for so long, I was waiting for Vile to choose a 3 Inches of Blood album for when we were doing Check This Out. Never ended up happening, so I'm glad we're finally here to do this record, to take a look at it. We listened to it, so here we go.
Yeah, just to preface, for people that don't know what Check This Out is, because there might be some new viewers,
that's true.
It was a series we had before when we kind of first started the channel for the first couple years, where we would pick bands and albums to have the other guy check out, and we would review those albums. And for the longest time, I wanted to pick a 3 Inches of Blood album, just the chance never came up. It was like always like a maybe, then I would choose something else or whatever. But the fact that they've landed on a 20-year anniversary, and we started this anniversary series, and they got back together. Everything just lined up perfectly to do this album now at this time, and it's just glorious. So go ahead.
Well, I guess for my first time really checking out this band, the vocals are the first thing you notice, and wow, are they incredible. There are 2 singers here. One of them does like cleans, which kind of get a little bit harsh. The other one is strictly harsh. These cleans are like if you put Rob Halford and King Diamond together, which is a ridiculously sounding combo. Like, what? You put them together? What is that? This guy's got ultimate falsetto pipes. It's ridiculous. And every time you hear him belt something out, you can feel the power in his voice.
Yeah.
Especially when they get a little bit harsh, and then you have the actual harshes on top of that.
Yeah.
Just ridiculously good. Consistently ridiculously good. Now, I know the big song from this album, probably the big song from this band, is Deadly Sinners, which is on this record. Sick, awesome song, lots of fun. And one cool thing about this song is that I like how it has a false ending, and then bam, it comes back for a little bit more, like, oh, you thought it was over. But yeah, it's a great song, and it kind of translates to the rest of the album. I feel like this is the kind of album you could just put on at any point, like literally just hit shuffle and you're gonna enjoy every song.
Yeah.
You know, it's very consistent, not only in that regard, but I feel like in sound as well. I feel like a lot of the songs kind of do similar things, but it doesn't feel like that much of a problem because I'm still enjoying it. It's like, yeah, this one is kind of similar to that one, but they're both awesome. So it's like, it's hard to kind of gauge whether that's a detriment or not because I'm still enjoying it at the end of the day. So it's like, well, it's not that bad of a detriment, it's just kick ass, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Another thing I was thinking about this album that might have been a bit of a detriment, it's about 50 minutes or so, which I feel like for the kind of album this is and the content on it might be a little bit on the longer side. Now I know back in 2004 and around that time, average album length were around that time. So for its time it was average. These days average is like 40 minutes or so, 40 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So the average has gotten shorter, so by today's standards it feels a bit long, but even so, with the way that these songs are, it doesn't really feel like it needs to be 50 minutes. But even so, it's still an enjoyable experience throughout the album.
It is 13 tracks too, so you could cut out a couple tracks, make it 10 or 11 songs, and then you're down to the 40-minute-ish mark.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not, it's like maybe there's just 1 or 2 many songs on this.
Maybe, like,
Maybe.
what you could probably do, which would work, is maybe like make 2 of them like bonus tracks.
Yeah, you could do that.
And then it works out perfectly, because you still have that as your album experience, but like the official album ends at that one point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what was happening with this album, is I was thinking to myself, like, man, this song is sick. What should I kind of rate that? I don't know, this one's sick. So I kind of rated them against each other, like which ones have the standout points.
Right.
But if we're gonna talk about standout points, so I already talked about Deadly Sinners, which is a sick, awesome track. Another one that I really, really liked was Premonition of Pain. That one has some cool, quote-unquote, narration, like the way that the story is being told, and near the end, like, oh, it's so awesome about like someone coming to the king and saying, hey, the tyrant's coming, they're gonna mess you up, like, the blood will be spilled, pray that it's not yours. And I love that so awesome. And it's one of those songs where every time those parts come up, like, yeah, this is the part.
It tells a great story.
I love it. Super duper awesome. Another song that I really liked is Wickedtron. It's I think the only song that has gang vocals in it, and that's in the chorus, and I really like that, and that stood out to me consistently. I mean, I know these guys are coming to town. I hope they play that song because it'll be a lot of fun. I figure they would just because it would probably be a really good crowd song.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they play it. I hope they play the whole record, to be honest. Like, if they're going to celebrate it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Makes sense. Another one that I really, really liked was Destroy the Orcs.
Okay.
Which is way too short for something this awesome. It's only 2:21, which is on the shorter end for this album. The songs on this album are basically average 4 to 5 minute range.
Yeah.
So this one being 2 minutes is a shame.
Destroy the Orcs is actually a re-recording from their first album, Battle Cry Under a Winter Sun. They recorded it originally for that album, so that could be one of the reasons why it's different in that aspect. But
is it much different from that recording?
It's not much different. From my recollection, it's not much different. It's just re-recorded. I don't think they rewrote it.
Okay.
But they re-recorded it, so it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot more refined and things like that.
A cool thing about that song is they do like a 4, 4, and then 7 time thing as their kind of little gimmick with the verses, which I think is pretty cool. It's something that definitely throws you off if you're not ready for it. And it's like, oh, what is that? Oh, it's 4, 4, and then 7. Okay, cool. But yeah, like I think it's the kind of album that doesn't really let up with its energy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just consistently kicking your ass like over and over and over with every single song. Even songs that, you know, probably weren't so notable to me were still super cool. Like, for example, there's a song near the end of the record, The Phantom of the Crimson Cloak. I couldn't really, like, that's the kind of song where I'd look at it on the record and be like, I don't even remember much about that. Like, it just didn't really stand out, but if I were to put it on, I would still enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's still like a really good track.
Yeah, I think this album's just, it's so good. It's probably one of my favorites, to be honest, and I'm talking like kind of all time, really. And, you know, when you're talking about the album being too long or having too many songs, I don't disagree with that. 50 minutes, I think is okay, but it's a little bit past the sweet spot, which is probably like 40 to 45 minutes, right? So it's not too bad, but I'm at the point where, like, what do you cut out of this? Like, what do you cut out of this and not miss it? Because for me, every song has highlight moments, whether it's an amazing scream or multiple, amazing riffs or multiple, the solos or multiple. Like, there's just stuff in every song that makes every song worth listening to. Even stuff like The Phantom of the Crimson Cloak, which you just mentioned. Now, I can't think of a specific moment of that song that makes me go, oh, that song's amazing. But just content-wise, the fact that this song is about this creature that hunts and feeds on human flesh, and this guy's just belting out about that to me is badass. Please don't take that off the album. You know what I mean? Like, and the album's just full of stuff like that. So if I had to make a choice, just hypothetically, remove the trilogy. I think so there's Upon the Boiling Sea, 1, 2, and 3. They each have their own titles. Remove the trilogy, right? That's dropping 3 songs. You're probably cutting the album down roughly 10 minutes. That's probably the easiest and best way to do it, and everything else sticks. Those 3 songs I think are fantastic, but compared to the other ones, I think they're amongst the weaker ones, I would say. Premonition of Pain. So this song is probably my favorite on the album. It kind of always has been. It kind of became my favorite back when I first listened to it, and it just kind of just stayed my favorite. And it's because, as Steve just mentioned, the story that it tells is really just awesome. It's about this soothsayer who pleads to this king, like, king, there's an army coming and they're gonna kill you. You have to listen to me. You gotta protect our people. And the king's like, who are you? Like, you're a fool. You're misinformed. Get out of here. And he's like, no, seriously, dude, you're not safe. It's gonna happen. And of course it happens. This army comes, they destroy the place, they cut the king's head off, and, you know, they take his throne. I just think that story alone is badass, but the way it's presented is even more badass, because in the chorus, he's singing about what's gonna happen. Brick by brick, stone by stone, wall by wall, this castle is set to fall. Such a sick line, and my favorite part about it is he repeats that line like 2 or 3 times, but on the 3rd time, the last time, he increases his pitch with every line.
Yeah!
I fucking love that so much, because he's already in a high pitch, and he just goes up, and then he goes up again. That to me is just, it's like vocal gymnastics in a way, where he's just showing off, right? He's showing off that falsetto and where he can get to, And I just love that. I also love the fact that with all the falsettos on this album, they're not all the same. Where if you listen to a band like, I might put my foot in my mouth, but I'm gonna say Judas Priest and Rob's falsettos, I'm putting my foot in my mouth because I know he's got a good range too. I just find, let me just say this, I find when Cam Pipes is doing it, he's got a lot more range in his falsettos. He's got different types of vibrato. There's vibrato that's very kind of noticeable, and there's vibrato that's very subtle. There's times where he has zero vibrato. It's just a nice, clean, soaring note. And there's different ranges. There's stuff that's like almost ear piercing, and there's stuff that's a little bit more mid-range as far as the high range spectrum goes. It's just so impressive, right? That's what I'm trying to say. It's so impressive. And you kind of, hit the nail on the head when you say the vocals are the standout stuff on this album, in this band. It's just clear as day. These vocals are just amazing. And I don't understand how anybody can't like it. I know there's some people out there that don't like high vocals and stuff like that.
That's just, a preference thing.
It's a preference thing, but to me, like, I'm going, wow. Like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, look how low this guy can go. Oh, the deepest growl and all this stuff. And for me, it's like, the more impressive stuff is the high stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like going low, like a dime a dozen people can do it. Going high like this, you got to nitpick people that can go this high and do it this consistently, right? So to me, that's more impressive that way. As far as actual music on the album goes, I love the fact that this album isn't shy to experiment with different genres and kind of mash them together. So if you were to ask me what genre is 3 Inches of Blood, I'd probably just straight up say heavy metal. But I hear thrash metal in here. I hear power metal in here. I hear new wave of British heavy metal in here. It's kind of like all those genres kind of mashed into one awesome concoction, this one awesome formula. So a song like Dominion of Deceit, for example, track number 4, starts off with this nice little snare roll. Then it has this skank kind of thrashy beat to it, which I think is really cool. But another cool thing is each measure ends in a blast beat. So they're kind of like throwing in these little things and mashing genres together. And I'm like, all right, I'm here for it. Awesome stuff. Every song's got great riffs on it. Another song, so you talked about Destroy the Orcs. Here's the reason I like Destroy the Orcs. Destroy the Orcs, for me, has that power metal vibe because it's got a bit of a kind of a gallop type of feel to it.
Yeah.
Right? And I associate gallops with power metal. That's just that's my link. So, is it a power metal song by definition? Maybe, maybe not. You could probably argue on behalf or against that, but I think it's got elements there that make it kind of sound like that style of music. So I like the fact that there's range on this album as far as its rhythmic stylings go and things like that.
I think even the high falsetto vocals lend itself to a lot of power metal. Like
Of
a lot
course.
of power metal do a lot of that. So you have that on top of it, like just even more to add to the mix.
They do, but that's also a new wave of British heavy metal trait
That's
as well,
true.
right?
It's like
So you're borrowing from different genres, kind of combining them, kind of doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but the overall package that you're presenting is just badass, unrelenting fucking metal. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I want, and that's what I love. And you know what? We praised Cam Pipes for his high falsettos. Jamie Hooper as the secondary vocalist and his harshes are just fucking on point as well.
They're great.
Like, he does not falter one bit. He's consistent. He's, him, I don't know if you call it harmonizing with Cam and they're going together and back and forth. It's just so fucking good. And on top of that, you got amazing riffs. The solos on this album can be a little bit too short. I feel like, when it comes to bands like, power metal bands or new wave of British heavy metal bands, the solos are a little bit longer generally. This is a lot more compact. Basically, like, get to the point and you're done.
Yeah.
I like my solos a little longer, so that's a bit of a fault for me. But they're still good. And the things is they can be a little bit noodly, but I think there's enough nuance in them to prevent them from feeling basic. So I think there's stuff there. And it's like, listen to these solos. I've heard them many times over the years. And even just this week, listening to them, as I'm reviewing the album, I'm noticing stuff about the solos that I didn't notice before. And that to me is a huge thing when you can listen to something a million times and then finally notice something new about it. I'm like, holy crap, how did I not notice that before? And I can't remember what it was. It was some type of pitch bend or something like that he does on one of the solos. And I was like, holy crap, that was cool. But yeah, man, I love this album. I think that it's, banger after banger after banger. And, it's hard to even pick a favorite song, really, because I'm looking at this track listing. I'm like, at one point in time, all these songs were probably my favorite. Like, I'm looking at Crazy Nights. I'm just in my head I can hear him singing Crazy Nights, like, and just so many good songs. Such a solid album. Really love it.
And with that being said, let's get to rating it. So would you mind?
Toe tag, easy toe tag. I
Yeah.
love this album from front to back, and this band is just so good. I'm so glad they're back together, and I can only pray that they have new material in the works because I've been aching for it so bad.
That would be rad.
Yeah.
For me, easy toe tag. I mean, this album is super sick from front to back. And I remember later on through the week, you showed me Fire Up the Blades, which is also insane. Like this band just in general is just an awesome, incredible
Kick-ass.
band. Kick-ass is the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are super proud to grant 3 Inches of Blood a spot on our 2 toe tags list with this album. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Remember to like the video if you liked it. Tell us in the comments, what is your favorite 3 Inches of Blood album, and are you hyped for any of the shows? If you're coming to the mid, it's only like I think a few Canadian cities that they're hitting.
Like a handful of shows,
Only a handful of shows, so let us know if you're going to be at any of those. And subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Vile Self.
Keep the horns up.